Welcome back, you filthy exiles, and we finally got a build put together out there. Anyway, so obviously we started at SST Slayer, and I didn't really like it. And anyway, I theory crafted this build like earlier, like before the league start, and I really wanted to play around with Perforate. And the reason why is like you can stance switch. The DPS looks low, but it's actually exceptionally high and very, very good. So basically, what I set out to do was get this working. And so far, we're at about nearly 400 depth delve. As you would have seen, we've taken down all the base pinnacles. We haven't got it to Ubers or anything like that, so don't ask me about that yet. Um, the build itself is relatively inexpensive to get up and working as well. Really like one div axe. Fourth Vow with 6 link is dirt cheap this league for some reason, even though it's one of the best defense layers for life-based builds of this nature. Reslythers was like 150C in the first few days, but is now far, far cheaper, and this is not a very good roll. In fact, could be way, way better. With another 10%, this is a very low roll. And then, we've got some crafted boots. We've got, some gloves at regen, stuff like that. Rings were like maybe 70C. All up, this is probably like, I don't know, maybe 5-6 div tops in the current market climate. Even the cluster jewels and everything are not very expensive. And the Forbidden Flesh and Flame in this, by the way, the Crave the Slaughter is like, I think I paid like tops like 60 to 70C all up for both jewels, because it's not very popular this league to run that, even though it's very, very strong. But anyway, so basically we get to this. Now, is it an endurance charger stacker? Not quite. Is it a rage stacker? More so than anything else. But basically all we do is we go into maps, we basically pump sand stance. We do run a war cry setup as well with Infernal Cry for a bit of extra clear. And the other thing we're going to do is change this out so we have, warning call for more armor, and we're also going to have the other one that gives us onslaught as well. So we can have almost permanent onslaught as we're mapping and bossing, which is going to increase our damage by quite a bit as well. And then basically, yeah, we're just going to like run around, hit. When you go to a boss, you're going to stance switch, go to blood stance, and you're going to hit spikes into the boss, which is what you would have seen. Now, mana regeneration, mana sustain, all those things like that. Obviously, I'm not running a clarity setup anymore. If you're struggling, run arrogance and clarity, and you'll reserve life. In this case, I'm doing this with precision. But basically, the way that we get around that is we made a few adjustments, and we actually have this set up in here. Where is it? Warlord's Mark and Mark on hit support. Now, the reason why we do this, we get like straight up leech by cursed enemies. We get, 2.9% leech for both life and for obviously our mana as well. We also have a 100% chance to gain endurance charges when we slay an enemy as well, and also double stun duration, and curse enemies grant 10 rage when stunned. And as long as you're then hitting some form of minimum level of stun, you're laughing, right? The other big thing here is gain 50 life when you stun an enemy. So, any stun that you can get into this build, even better. But it's not like a priority or anything like that. Outside of that, that's basically the setup. Everything's auto flask set up. When we stand idle, we stand at like, nearly 40,000 armor, but that can change very quickly if we chuck a basalt flask on, and that goes up pretty significantly, up to 51,000. Then when we take more damage, our armor stacks even further. And then obviously we've got to switch out here. So we use a few strategic flask readjustments here to be able to do either more damage depending on what we're fighting, or more defense if we're in delve or something like that. Now, the next question is, like, what am I running for my graphs? So I'm running the Violent Desire, which gives me increased Impale, helps me hit almost like 105% Impale without any further investment. And obviously we've then got, we just scale up Impale. And then we also have a huge amount of life and damage reduction coming from Tender Embrace, and this gives us life regeneration just on the cusp of when we're about to die when we get to low life. So half life, we get a 27% life recovery boost and 1 endurance charge, which is really useful when you need it. Is this better than Heart of Flame? Not too sure yet. Haven't figured that out. I've got to get some. There's a fair bit more to go into this build. We haven't got Defiance of Destiny. We need a better axe. We need better Reslyther with better corrupt. We need a double corrupted Fourth Vow. There's just a lot of things that need to be done, and we're only level 91, so we've got a long way to go on the leveling scale as well. Still got at least 5 levels before we sort of anywhere done with this. But as it stands, it's quite a good build. It did take me a little bit to balance the defenses, and where I settled with was 4th Vow. And the reason why, originally I had like nearly a 4,000 armor chest, or sorry, 3,200. This on paper looks good until you realize that elemental damage is one of the biggest problems in Delve that you have to contend with. And if you're running this, even if you overcap reses, which I am like overcapped, right? But I was at 85, 83, 83 previously, with like 1,700 life regeneration when you're standing still and 1,051 when you've got no buffs up. So I got a lot of regen on this build. It just was getting one shot constantly because of elemental pen or elemental damage coming through. So the way that, for anyone who doesn't know how 4th Vow setups work, the way that you run it is you overcap your chaos resistance, and the way that you do that is you run the 4th Vow, right? You focus on chaos res in the build. Obviously, I've got that, you know, pretty much everywhere in the build. And when we change this out, it's going to be problematic. Actually, no, it's not, because you got 111%, so this doesn't even matter at this point. When we get a Defiance of Destiny, we're Gucci. So you run your 4th Vow, right? But then you're also going to run a Glorious Vanity with Divine Flesh. So this is a Divine Flesh configuration, which gives you 5% to maximum Chaos Res, which allows you to overcap your Chaos Res. But it also means that 50% of elemental damage is taken as Chaos. And the beauty of the 4th Vow is that that then means that that is applied to the 4th Vow, and that makes you considerably more tanky. Now, one could also argue that because that's now mitigating that damage, we could actually play around with the Ascendancy right now, and I'm now considering whether or not we use otherworldly appendages, because this could be quite good for, you know, for example, we're running all graphs, so we get 50%, you know, with at least, so we got 15% less physical damage that we do take, and 100% more damage from graphs. But that doesn't give us the benefit of the graph damage. It does give us a 15%, you know, extra damage with at least one, you know, all graft on us. So I'm trying to figure out if that's a better use of this, or if not, what else could we use? And there's probably some other combinations that I could probably use off of some of the other ascendancies, because the main issue that we run into is it sort of nullifies Unbreakable. Armor is doubled, but it's not really enough. And 15% of armor also applies to chaos damage taken from hits, is sort of no longer relevant because all armor applies to chaos damage from hits when we run 4th Vow. So it basically makes Unbreakable a worthless point to take. We could take Unflinching, that's definitely an option. But yeah, I think putting this into another Ascendancy is actually a better play, and we could get more damage and more regeneration and stuff like that. So we'll have to have a play around with that. Anyway, that's where we got to with the build. Currently, yeah, we're just notching it up in Delve, and we'll be doing that on stream later on. But yeah, pretty powerful build and a lot of fun so far. It's just really fast, and yeah, it's just something different. Is this better than other builds? No, but every, you know, one could argue that you could always play, you know, a different build to get more damage depending on what you want to use it for. I play this as an all-rounder for Delve. Obviously, we're doing 350 plus strategy, and we might be able to get this to like 1,000 Delve once we get Mage Blood and stuff like that into it. But yeah, as it stands, this is just a pretty damn good build at this point of the game. All right, I feel like it's been an eternity since we've done this exercise. So this is the POB, and we'll go through the config page. So obviously we've got, we'll just move my big head out of the way. So obviously we got Solanaris and Tukahama. We're stationary for 5 seconds. This synergizes with Nature's Patience as well. And obviously because we're running the Unstoppable node, Nature's Patience has no effect and we cannot be stunned. So we just run through. And you'll notice we have, like, collectively with Perforate 8.2 mil, we can definitely push this much higher because the Theorycrafted POB gets up as high as 40 something mil. And once we get Defiance of Destiny, we may even consider switching this to Zerka, because this on Zerka would do absolutely stupid damage. In fact, we could, like, theorize that right now. If we have Zerka, bam, bam, bam. Yeah, it's actually not that much more, but anyway. We're running it as Jug anyway, because we got a lot more accuracy. Anyway, so from there, endurance charges, we do stack up frenzy charges, but if I tick that, it's going to go 9.6, and somebody's going to say, well, you can't generate that on bosses. And yeah, that's true, but you generate it when you're playing Delve, right? So you get, you know, 3 frenzy charges, but yeah. We don't have anything else on here, so we don't tick that. We don't actually need fortified, but if we had it and could get it into the build, it'd be even better. We have 40 rage, which is pretty good, and that's coming from battle trance. So we get rage from battle trance up here, obviously, and then, you know, we gain 1 rage on melee hit as well, and we've got a few other sources where it's pulling from. We're leeching, and this is also coming from pretty much everywhere in the build, but we do run Fuel the Fight, so we are leeching. And then basically, we've got, you know, have you been hit recently? Yes. Have you war cried recently? Yes, we have Infernal Cry for a bit of additional clear. War cried in 8 seconds, yes, and 1 war cry. We don't touch and power, we just let it do its thing. Do have Combat Rush in the actual gem setup, and the reason why is because we get like 39% increased damage, but I need to play with that a bit more. I'm not convinced that's the best gem, but we do quite a lot of damage with melee distance at close range. Banner, we use War Banner basically all the time. So we always have War Banner up. So we have like 1000 Valor in there just to represent as max Valor. Blood Stance, and then if you want to switch to AoE, we have 3.2 mil on the AoE, and we'll scale this up. But our Blood Stance gets about 8.2, which is why we chew through bosses right now. But we can get this far, far higher. I think that we can get this way better than this number. Close range, yes, because we are running in the gem setup. If we have a look at the Perforate, close combat, so yep, we have that. Taunt, that's coming from our war cry, and also I've got this as a level 92 tree, so we have Provocateur, but I think we're going to switch this out so we can do Onslaught. And then basically we have 10 overlapping, but we actually have like 18 overlapping, but it's not registering that, so I don't know what's going on there. And then basically nothing else tick. Is the enemy moving? We have that ticked because we do bleed damage, but it's not really a showstopper at the end of the day, so we'll just untick that just in case there's someone that's like, what the hell? And then brittle we get from our boots as well. So on our boots, we actually have the implicit for brittle. So drops brittle ground when moving, lasting 2 seconds, and we sit on top of enemies anyway and, you know, wallop them with our axe. So brittle's pretty much always up. Is the enemy crushed? Yes, we have an awaken gem in our setup. So we have a Awaken Brutality, which means support skills have 10% chance to crush enemies for 4 seconds on hit. And then Guardian Pinnacle boss damage, that's basically it for the POB. Okay, so for the gear setup, so Helm, implicits, mana reservation reduction, physical damage taken or recouped as life is very useful. Resistances, life regeneration rate, and trying to get over 1000 plus armor and flat life is pretty much all the targets on the Helm, which we have here. This Helm, by the way, isn't that expensive. Obviously, fourth Vow, we would ideally want one with like a double corrupt, but we're not, you know, beggars can't be choosers, so this is what we got. These are really cheap, by the way. These are like 2 div, so pretty cheap. Then we've got a Flesh Ripper. Just the reason why we run Flesh Ripper is obviously for the fact that we need the additional crit, so a 50% increased crit. You just want as much attack damage as possible, plus attack speed and any other good stats. This has a lot of leech, so we're fortunate for that. Rings, I have 1 ring with Dex and Intelligence because this is a problem area. You need to balance this life. We got lucky with a Rarity Exalt Slam and damage taken recouped as life as well with Chaos Resistance. And then we just go like -7 mana because mana is something we do have to manage with this. Amulet, we're going to switch out to a Defiance of Destiny when we can afford it. But again, this just has like any stats that I could get that were good with a Charisma roll on it. The other ring, we have like all our other resistances. We have a bad mana roll, which is really, really bad. We could juice up the fire res, but it's only 1% out, and chaos res. Obviously, we got a useless. You and your minions take 41% reflected damage, reduced reflected damage, which is purposeless, but that's all good. And then negative mana. Gloves, again, we've got Impale in the implicit with 8% attack speed. I think we can actually remove that Impale roll now because we already capped that out with the graft at the moment. And then we have a roll on that with damage or leeching. And Reslythers. Ideally, we need a better roll with Reslythers, and we need one with like minimum 8 to 10% attack speed during any flask effect would be preferable. Boots, same deal, 30% movement speed, chaos res, all the other reses. These aren't actually very good boots, but they're doing the job, so we're going to upgrade them later on. Now, flasking setup, I sort of have switch out flasks here, so I got a diamond flask and a quicksilver flask. Obviously, gain charges when you're hit by the enemy because we're in Delve. And then the main setup is Basalt Flask with gain charges. They all got gain charges, but regenerate 3 life. To do this, you need to actually, like if you want the base flask, just literally search up, type suffix into the trade window. Why is that over there? And then basically, you should have absolutely no issues with finding a non-suffix flask with gain 3 charges, and then you're laughing. And then Sapphire Flask, we've got a Topaz Flask, Ruby Flask, any rolls that you want to find. And then a Sulfur Flask is our last flask. Arguably, this is as good as a Basalt Flask, but it's just additional armor roll on there with gain charges as well. But that should get you over the line. Okay, gem setups. In the helm, we're running Precision, Arrogance, we run Leap Slam, and Faster Attacks. In the axe, we run Auto Exertion, Infernal Cry, Blood Rage, Molten Shell, Automation. We do have Arctic Armor in here, but we don't actually use it, so you can get rid of that and just chuck a Portal Gem in there, or if you want to put another setup like Phase Run or something, or Increased Duration, you could do that and 6-link that. And then we've got in our chest piece, Increased Critical Strikes, Awaken Brutality Support, Close Combat, Melee Physical Damage, Multi-Strike, and Perforate. In our gloves, we've got Warlord's Mark with Mark on Hit. We've got Life Tap Support and War Banner. And then the boots, we've got Determination, Blood and Sand, Vitality, and Herald of Purity. Now, for the skill tree setup, ascendancy-wise, pretty much first ascendancy, we go Undeniable into Untiring, then Unstoppable, and lastly, we go Unbreakable. And beyond that point, we haven't used the Breach ascendancies at this point. But we come down, we want the attribute points here. It don't really give us any value right now because of the Glorious Vanity setup. We come into Warrior's Blood, up in the Heart of the Warrior, Born to Fight, Versatility, which we want to try and get rid of at this stage as well. And then we come down, we're going to use a Glorious Vanity with Zabiqua roll on it into Divine Flesh, and this is because we have our 4th Vow setup, as I mentioned at the start of the video. This sort of bricks these nodes to a degree, but it sort of works at the same time, so yeah, YOLO. Then we come down, we grab the Proficiency node. Our cluster jewels we'll talk about last. We go into Bastion Breaker with plus 10% more maximum fizz. Down into Wrecking Ball with 2-hand Mastery with 40% damage with hits against rare enemies. We want the Brutal Skewering node up into Golem's Blood. Then we want the Vigor node. And pretty much all the jewels we have is just like life, flat damage, or like crit multi. And then basically we'll come back up, Bloodless, into Inexorable with Armor Mastery +1 to all reses. The reason why we run Inexorable, by the way, is because we have no other way to generate endurance charges efficiently outside of this. And I think there's a couple of other ways that they can generate on the build, but this is much more reliable when you're in Delve. Down into Cannibalistic Rite with 12% mana reservation efficiency. Up into Juggernaut with Armor Mastery 20% per second stacked when you're stationary. Into Harpooner. We want Cleaving and Slaughter, and we want the Axe Mastery for Blood and Stance. That's going to give you a lot more damage. Then we don't want to go with the Stamina node here just yet. We want the Jewel Socket. We have a Corrupted Blood cannot be inflicted on us, so we mitigate that. Barbarism into Hardy. I really like this node. This gives you so much regeneration. Then into Disemboweling, Critical Mastery for the 25% crit multi, Battle Trance. And then we come all the way up into Devotion. Now for our cluster jewel setup, pretty simple stuff. Vicious Skewering, Feel the Fight, and Martial Prowess is in both setups, except for this one, we've got Nature's Patience. We also have our Forbidden Flesh and Flame setup with Crave the Slaughter, which is dirt cheap at the moment. And then basically up here, we've got Warning Call. We're going to change this Provocateur out to something else at this stage so we can get Onslaught from War Crying. And then, yeah, we just have another jewel up here with some more damage and whatnot. And that's pretty much it for the entire setup. Like all this POB will be in the description, and also the theory crafted POB that we're working towards as well. And that's pretty much it for the build. Like that's everything that you need to know. Yeah. Anyway, if you like this type of video, obviously I make a lot of builds over the league. Don't forget to like and sub. I'm gonna push this build to like maybe Mage Blood. Not sure yet. I definitely want to get a lot more currency in the bank. I did have a pretty cool axe drop today and a surrender that I could do like a dot, like a melee dot build with or something like that, but I haven't yet figured out how to actually do that. So yeah, I got a little bit of work to go on figuring that one out. But anyway, yeah, there's a lot of stuff I want to play around this league because there's some pretty cool tech with stuff that's come out, and especially with the Foulborn items. It's just I want to do a Warcry build as well, Corrupting Cry Warcry build. But yeah, we'll see how we go with that. Anyway. If you like this video, if you like this video, don't forget to like and sub to the channel, the Twitch, and all the rest of the stuff. If you want to become a member, by all means. But anyway, until next time, I'll see you guys later on, and have a good one.